Thank you for joining me for the Habits and Discipline reading. Now, habits is what we want to stop doing, and discipline is what we want to do. I am kind of briefly truncating these definitions for ease of reading. So again, discipline, what we want to do. Habits, what we want to stop. We can often kind of complicate these things, and which just honestly makes them harder to do. So let's look at our habits. And what's going to help with our habits. Wow, this is so interesting. Okay, so first row is representing our habits, and bottom row is representing our discipline. They both have the 5th chakra in common. I got a 5th chakra theme going for my readings as of late. But we're in a bit of a 5th chakra time right now in society where we are speaking out, so that makes sense to me. So let's have a look at what's going to assist us with the habits that we want to stop. Because oftentimes when we're referring to habits, this is the reason why I describe it as what we want to stop, is it's oftentimes negative habits that we're talking about. We're not sitting here harping on our positive habits, right? We're talking about habits that are good in and of themselves, but they've gone awry. We're doing too much of it, or habits that are just inherently bad, either in general or for ourselves. So for, say, a diabetic, certain diabetics, eating sweets sometimes is still really bad. But, or for an athlete that is under a very specific regimen and dietary system, eating sweets sometimes is really, really bad. So, so that's how I'm defining habits, and it looks like what's going to assist us in our habits right now is creativity, sound, and love. So with the habits, I am seeing that what we want to stop is oftentimes we have, you know, at the end of the day, we're all just kind of like these base creatures, right? We're just little animals that could do just a little extra, right? And too much stimulation can really impact us. It can frazzle us. It can disjoint us. And it looks like when you have too much input, too much coming in, it's too much. So I'll give an example. You're sitting down, you're working, you're trying to concentrate. And amidst trying to concentrate, let's say you're working from home and you have one earpod in that's playing commentary or music, and you have the television on, whether you're watching it or not, and you have people around you going about their lives, sometimes talking to you, sometimes not. And, you know, your window's open and there are sounds coming from the window. And your phone is ringing. And your pets are moving about or talking or nudging you because they want some loving, whatever the case may be. All of this is going on. A little too much input, a little too much external stimulation, right? That can be difficult when you have a task at hand that you're trying to accomplish, when you have, you know, something going on with you that you need support in. If you need support to stop a habit, this is not necessarily supportive, all of the stimulation. And so we will try to cope with all the stimulation. And so we'll go for whatever the habit is that we're trying to stop, right? We'll go for that thing that's going to nurture us and at least give us some sense of peace, whether that is something good to eat, whether that is, you know what, after a day of this, I'm eating out, when we know we're trying to break that habit. But you're like, I got to get out of here, or I'm not going in that kitchen and dealing with this, or I can escape through that sushi I'm going to buy tonight, even if I'm eating it in the midst of all this. I have to treat myself, right? I have to treat myself. Whatever the habit is, if the habit is, you know, I'm going to use again, because this is for the birds, man. Sometimes too much stimulation can get us there. And and that's what I'm getting from this card. Creativity. Creativity. How fantastic. So obviously this is about being able to creatively navigate through breaking your bad habits. So this is an encouragement card. This is a card saying, be creative with how you approach your habits. And I'm also clairvoyantly getting a sense of having fun with it. Like, be funny about it. Like, it's not the end of the world, even if it is the end of the world, right? Like, there's that the story of the monk that is being chased by a tiger, and he falls off a cliff running from the tiger, and he's hanging on to one of the rocks on the edge, and he's at the end of his life, and beneath him is another tiger. So either way, this guy's going down, right? And he sees a tiny, like, strawberry hanging off and it's like, eat the strawberry, you know, like, it's like, enjoy this moment before the end, right? So I say this story not because of your imminent doom, but for the lesson in the story, which is we can still remember the fun of life, the creativity, the originality, the expression, the imagination, the passion. that makes life good. And we can use that to our approach with our habits. So taking another habit as an example, if I want to stop reading so much, a bit of a benign habit, but it could be a very, very, detrimental habit for some, if we should be doing other things. I can get Audible instead. And at least I'll be hands-free and eyes-free while I'm quote-unquote reading my books audibly, right? And this is not being sponsored by Audible. I'm a tiny channel, so in my dreams, right? So that's that's an easy one, right? But we can be creative about that. Or we can say, you know what, even though I want to go on reading marathons, I can be creative with how I do that. I can have my kids read to me. And that's a way that they can get their points for, their reading in, and they can read to me. And then, I read my guilty pleasures on my own time, but it'll be less time spent. There are other ways that we can do this, right? Okay. I think this is awesome. This is quite awesome. I might come back to this one. Love. My gosh, what a gorgeous, gorgeous thing. So 4th chakra, love, and you see a dog, because they just love so wholly, right? It's just like, it's better than seeing the lovers, right? It's it's just like, there are different types of love, right? It's like a dog's love. Oh my gosh, it's just, there's a specific type of canine love, right? Feline love, canine love, the lovers, romantic love, right? There are all these different kinds of love, and it's so beautiful to see the 4th chakra love card being expressed in canine love, because there's a type of loyalty, right? Unconditional love. There's a type of just benevolence, just wholeheartedly, right? They're just gonna give it all. They're gonna be sloppy with it. They're gonna lick your face. They're gonna just be like, yes, let's do this. So we have this love, and that's fantastic. And there is a great lesson in this. The habits row is bookended with such gorgeous energy, right? Creativity and love. What could be better to support you in these things that we don't even think of? We're thinking of beating you down with a stick. Don't do that. A rubber band slapping your wrist or your finger, wrapping it around your finger and snapping it when you want to stop yourself from doing a habit. And these are saying, no, love and creativity, positive reinforcement, positive application. Beautiful, absolutely beautiful. So with love, we have this very specific kind of canine love, this loyalty love. And this is about remembrance, remembering why you're doing this. This is out of love for yourself, love for your goals, love for what you want. This is self-care, is the highest form of self-love. And ultimately, ending a habit is about how much you love yourself. That is the why of why you want to stop something. And if you are seeing in this reading that the reason you want to stop this habit is for someone else or something else or something just quite frankly outside of you, you want to realign that and re-own that for you, for loving yourself. You want to make it much more unconditional, much more self-based. All right, let's take a look at the bottom row. Let's take a look at how to support your discipline. Wow. 7th chakra. 2 cards in the 7th chakra, inspiration and divine consciousness. And then the 5th chakra, throat chakra. And when it's just throat chakra, that indicates that it's all aspects of the throat chakra. And we're going to get into this because this is a heavy one. This is like, you know, I don't play cards, but it's like the king or the ace, right? It's a heavy. It's chock full of a lot. And we'll do this one last because it has so much in there. So, at the center of your discipline is the top of the top of the top. It's like the 7th aspect of the 7 chakras, divine consciousness. So, let's get to the meat of it all, shall we? I oftentimes see a trifecta from the bottom center with love and creativity connecting to divine consciousness. These bookends connecting to the center of the bottom row. And the symmetry works, of course, but it also is about how we ultimately express divine consciousness, because divine consciousness is always coming in through the 7th chakra. The divine consciousness comes in through cosmic energy, which is out into the cosmos, and comes in through the 7th chakra and down through the other chakras. Divine consciousness is about interconnection, expansion. You see this Jupiterian expanse just moving out. Oneness. We're all connected through divine consciousness, and light. And this should be inspiring, and it's also an invitation to bring more divine consciousness into us as a source of strength, as a source of power, as a source of energy, as a source of ability even, because with our own internal 3rd chakra willpower, we can do X, Y, Z. But with our own ability to tap in and access divine consciousness power, we can also do A, B, C, D, E, F, G, right? So there are all these different sources of power, and this is one of them. And if we can tap into that, then we can do it. So for example, protesting and protesting injustice. We were able, so many of us are able to tap in to protesting injustice because we see so many other people doing it out of divine consciousness, out of interconnection. And there is a lot of power in that. And we were all called to join in our own way, whether it was protesting on the street, or whether it was donating, or whether it was speaking out, or whether it was signing petitions, or whether it was, writing attorney generals, or any number of things, discussing it at work, calling loved ones, making sure that our Black brothers and sisters are taken care of out there and that they're okay. Making sure, asking, what can I do? Asking ourselves internally, asking ourselves, talking amongst it with our friends and family, what can we do? Talking about it at work if you felt safe to do so. And this is a very real power. It's not just about there being bodies on the street. It was also tapping into the divine consciousness of that. There was a divinity of that. There was an automatic interconnection that was on display. Oh, nope, we're all on board here. We're all in this together. And that's why you saw Black and white together. That's why you saw many races. That's why you saw Native Americans come forward. That's why you saw, many brown people come forward. That's why you saw Asians come forward, everyone around the world, to say, this is wrong. It's because of this power. Now, yes, social justice is a body chakra theme, but movements are divine. Movements are coming from cosmic energy. So let's move on to inspiration. Oh, sorry. So bringing that example of protesting, discipline, how this is going to assist your discipline. Divine consciousness is going to assist your discipline in the way that it has assisted the protests and the cause for social justice. Call for it to come in and assist you in what you want to do, and it will come. Okay. Inspiration. How beautiful. This is also a 7th chakra ability to be inspired, to experience inspiration. When one of the oddest and not usually paired dichotomies is being depressed and being inspired at the same time. And you live life long enough and you realize that those two can occupy the same space at the same time. Yes, they can. And it super sucks when they do, because you may not have the will, being depressed, to move on being inspired, or you move on being inspired in your depressive way. you keep it to yourself, right? So for example, I'm a writer. I'm an introvert. I'm naturally introverted. I have a Shalesha nakshatra in very specific places in my natal chart, and which makes me naturally even more introverted and less likely to be vulnerable. And as a result, I keep all my inspiration to myself. And so you can occupy these two spaces at the same time. I'm mentioning that because we take inspiration as, oh, you're inspired, phew, you're off to the races. That's not the way any of this works. It's not an automatic thing. That being said, inspiration with your discipline of what you want to do, of course, remember what inspires you to want to do it. Absolutely, that's a no-brainer. But it is also to value the way you express inspiration. It's not the way an introvert values inspiration is not going to be the way that an extrovert values inspiration, because an extrovert has to show the world, right? So this is also about having an internal discipline rather than an external one. Internal inspiration. You're inspired on the inside. And so your discipline, this is an example. If you imagine this spiraling inward, this is an example of inspiration. Divine consciousness is inspiring. So this is like a picture of it. I would, if it was spiraling downward, it would be much more of a picture of it, but this is good enough for me. It's definitely going this direction, but it can also be going out like this. So, okay. But this inspiration is about being internally lit by your wants. It's a cause for happiness. So as an example, you can be inspired by your love for yourself. That love is carried deep in your heart. It's not some external thing that you can point to and touch. It's inside. You're inspired from within, from self-love. All right. Let's unpack the throat chakra. My gosh, the throat chakra. Okay. So the throat chakra is a lot of things. And it's external expression, but it's also internal expression. Now, internal expression, it's sound, of course, it's creativity, it's so many things. One of the things that is often not discussed is that the throat chakra is internal expression. So it's the way you self-talk. It's your inner voice is the throat chakra. How you're talking to yourself. I think introverts self-talk much more than extroverts. So if you're an introvert, this is huge for you. How well you're talking to yourself, it's gigantic. And then let's move on to the more esoteric aspects of the throat chakra and internal communication. It's also intuition. So we've moved up from gut instincts of the third chakra, which is a body clairvoyance, a body knowing in its own way. And we're now up to the spiritual body and intuition, but it's still, it's not clairvoyance of the sixth chakra, but it is intuition. So it's kind of like that bridge between gut instincts and sixth chakra clairvoyance. Intuition, it's in between. It's like, I know I need to do this, and it's kind of on a body level, but I don't, but it's a little bit higher than that. Second thing is clairaudience, your ability to hear. We have beings without bodies, spirits, spirit guides. You hear them through this chakra. Now, it's a bit higher because we think of the fifth chakra as the throat chakra, but the fifth chakra is from the throat up to the ear, right? So it covers the ear and the throat. So it should be called the ear and throat chakra. And so clairaudience, hearing our spirit guides. We all have different clairvoyant abilities. Some of us have clairvoyant abilities that where we can feel beings. Some of us have clairsentience, right? Some of us have abilities where we can see things a lot more clearly, clairvoyantly, than other clairvoyants can. I think we all have clairvoyance. It's just levels to this stuff, right? Like with everything. And clairaudience is here. One of the other things that the fifth chakra has is the ability to hear well, the ability to listen well. And so it's one thing to be clairaudient, but it's another thing to be able to listen to your spirit guides, right? It's another thing to be able to listen to the positive things that people say to you and not just focus on the negative things that people say to you, to listen with a pure heart, to really and truly hear. That's all right here. So let's tie this into how it can assist you with what you want to do. Spirit guides are talking to you. Beings without bodies are communicating to you. What are they saying? What are you hearing? Clairaudient, that's not your voice. Some people have not tapped into all the different aspects of their clairvoyance, and so they're constantly arguing with themselves. Are you arguing with yourself, or are you arguing with somebody else? And I believe there are many aspects of oneself. So you could be arguing with different aspects of yourself, but you could also be arguing with a being without a body that has been in your space for so long, you've not even been able to detect it as another person. It just kind of feels like you. Well, is it you? Because if it's not, you can go ahead and ask them to kindly leave your space. You can go ahead and ask them, tell them you're ready to break cords with them, and you're okay. And you don't have to ask. Also, you can just poof, be gone. You're done with that energy. Now, if it's an aspect of you that you no longer want, it's truly you, you can start to work with that. And start to work with that aspect of the self by engaging and spending time with them. When were they of use to you? Because they're there for a reason. So did they come into being because you needed them when you were 5? When you were 10, when you were 20, and now you just don't need them anymore? So go ahead and look at these different aspects of yourself and see which ones are supporting you and which ones aren't. I would start a list. I'd have a list. I'd have the positive selves and the negative selves that are within you. And I'd write a list. This one is the judger, and put it in the negative. This one is the, you know, the Nazi. This one is the lover. This one is the giver, on the positive ends. And if your giving self is gone awry, is out of control, and it's given everything of you, put it on the negative column, right? So I would start with that, because it's hard to even listen to our intuition when we don't know which one of ourselves is talking to us. So we don't know when to listen to ourselves, because we got a lot of crazy arguments going on here, in terms of the internal communication. So I hope you enjoyed your habits and discipline reading. Please feel free to reach out to me for a chakra coaching session. I do chakra readings. I do clairvoyant readings. I love this stuff, and you can reach me at growthloveandevolution.com. Take care, guys.